Hi friends. So today we're going to talk about, how to measure images, for the web, right? Is there special tactics that we can use? So we're going to do a overview of basically what I'm going to be talking to you guys about today. So the first thing is we're going to really address about the importance of sizing your images and why that matters, to sharing some tools that you can use. And I'll do a demonstration as well as sharing some default sizes that you can use for setting up graphics for your website. So let's go. The first thing I want to start with is a metaphor to help you understand, why sizing pictures for the web matters. So let's draw something. So we're going to start very easy so that we understand what has to happen. So I want you to picture a picture frame. How funny is that? So we're just measuring a picture frame. So here's a really nice picture frame, right? And you want to fit a picture inside, right? So picture frames, they come in standard sizes, right? So you got, 4 by 8, or you got, I think it was 11 by 14. So these standard sizes, right? These are sizes that you can get anywhere. You can find anywhere. It's super simple, right? But if you start going into something that's more custom, then that's where you start getting crazy in different sizes, and then you can't find, the right picture frame, right? It's super frustrating. But what I'm saying here is, you have this beautiful picture, right? So let's just say your picture is a landscape of mountains. But this is a landscape picture. But this picture frame is a portrait picture, right? So what happens when you try to fit this into this picture frame? It's going to cut off awkwardly, right? So it's not going to really match nicely in the frame. So we don't really want to do that, right? So that makes things a little bit frustrating, right? Because you don't like to see those gaps, right? In the pictures, in your picture frame. So this is why the focus on sizing your images appropriately to a frame matters a lot, because you're going to try to size, this landscape picture, right? And then you got these silly gaps, right, that look ugly. They don't really make the picture, complete. It's just cropped in a weird way. And all of a sudden you're trying to like stretch the image to make it look nice in a picture frame. Let's not do that. So this is why knowing sizes matters when it comes to saving your pictures for the website in different formats, right? So if you're saving a really big image that's on your splash page of your website, right? So when your page loads, you got this beautiful banner and it's to the right size and it's super high resolution. It looks great. That's just because you followed the certain sizing that it needs to be in, right? Because if you don't follow the size, I want to talk about now why, image sizing and site performance is so important. So I want to share with you that, we as human beings usually remember images much more. So 80% of the time, compared to reading context or reading text of some sort. That's about 20% of what we remember. So our images really have to be captivating on a website. And what better way to do this is to make the effort to make sure you size your images appropriately. So, what I mean by why it's very important is they have to look appealing on the website. If your images are stretched or pixelated to a certain extent, or they look blurry because the sizing is not there, then people are going to turn away, right? It's about the quality and it's about the experience as well. So when you are, picking photos or sizing photos or preparing photos for a website, you really have to pay attention to, the images that you want to place in these spots in the website, right? Does it accommodate, landscape, or does it accommodate portrait size? They all matter here because, like I said, people remember images much more than they do of text. So keep that in mind. And when it comes to site performance, well, that does matter because if your images, you're uploading them and they're not to the right image size, that they're like super big and they are taking forever to load, you will see that. You will notice, how long your page will take to load, and your your picture will be like loading in parts as your website loads, and that's a bad sign to say, oh, this is too big of an image. We need to size it down so that it loads fast, people aren't waiting, and that's important too, because when it comes to the site performance, if your website is very slow, people are gonna run. You know, people don't have time to wait. That's the challenging part when it comes to working on building a website. You have to really think about the person that's coming to your website. How do you want them to feel? Do you want them to feel frustrated, loading your page and it's taking a long time? I don't think so. So what I want you to really think about is, when you are designing your website, you have to plan it. Plan how you want your pictures to be laid out. Don't just, copy and paste. You really have to think about, what do you want the person on your website to experience, and how does the images portray, how are they being echoed out to the world, right? So you have to make sure all your images are good quality, but they're not too large that they cause the website to slow down. And at the same time, making sure they're not blurry, they're not pixelated. This is what really matters, right? The user experience, the performance of the website, how fast it loads, and how things flow into each other. I think that really matters when it comes to, really trying to keep somebody engaged on your website, right? Because people love looking at pictures, but if the pictures aren't really doing it for them, then they're just going to walk away and say, okay, I don't think this is for me, and I'm going to look elsewhere and put my attention somewhere else. The other thing that I want to make a point about is, when you are really focusing on, sizing your images appropriately to a spot where your images load, really fast, they look great, that's going to actually improve your SEO. You know that? Because when your page is loading fast, well, Google's going to like that. Google's going to say, oh, I'm just going to, really focus on this person's website, on this art therapist's website, because, they're making an effort to really amp up their user experience, making the website, very easy to navigate. It's pleasant, it looks great, and at the same time, you know, when there's great performance, there's going to be more attention, obviously. So you really want to keep that in mind. Okay, so we're going to move on to really understanding the guidelines when it comes to Images for websites. So, do you know with social media, their guidelines, right? They share with you a square, size post. The size of that square post, I believe, is 1080 by 1080 pixels. But that's what I mean, right? You're gonna have different sizes. So you got like a square post for Instagram or a portrait post for Instagram, and they'll give you a specific size to follow because that's going to give you the best resolution for your post, right? Even your profile picture, they give you a size. Even with your Facebook banners, right? So they'll give you a size, for your Facebook banners so they look clean and crisp. So it's basically the same thing for websites, but websites have more pieces, okay? Draw a website real quick so that I can illustrate how things should look. And ideally, it would be really good to follow the actual default sizes for your websites, especially if you're just a beginner, okay? So you can get funky later with your sizes, but for now, it's just best to stay simple and basic, just so that performance is the focus and not aesthetics and design for that matter. So I just wanted to be very clear on that. So I'm just going to break up all of the pieces so you could see what, what really is the focus. So we have different sizes here. So your logo, we got the banner, or I usually call this like a header image or a banner image or a hero image. This is like a really big picture that will go across your above the fold page. So this is above the fold. And usually you'll have like a blog post picture. Again, I'm not really focusing on layout. I'm just giving you the pieces that usually websites would have. So don't follow this as a template or anything. I'm just showing you the pieces of what is included. So these are blog posts. Then we have the portrait size with like a headline with smaller ones. There's also a long style one with short ones. And then you have like a gallery of photos that you can also put into your website. And this could be like a sliding gallery, an example. So I'm just going to put little icons here as another example of different button here. So we have a button. So this is basically a rough idea of how many elements you will have in your website. So I'll name you a few so that you can kind of remember them. So graphic elements, you'll definitely have your logo at the top. That's a graphic element. Then you're going to have this huge cover image that usually is on that very usually you would have a splash page image on the onset of starting your website, so on the home page. Then you'll have an element of a button, and that's, I can say it's a graphic element. You'll also have, blog posts, right? So you might have like a thumbnail to click on the blog post, or maybe this is like an image to enter into the blog post. Maybe it's a larger picture instead of a thumbnail. So that's something there. There's also, your standard portrait picture with text together. So I would call that like a inside content image. So that could be portrait or landscape. You also have different, icons, and they could be large or small. That's a graphic element. You also have gallery photos, and those can get fun. But those are all different types of graphic elements. There's also more, inside a blog. So if you want to click on a blog post, you'll have images inside that blog post, right? So you'll have a banner, you'll probably have a couple of images inside it, and we can dive a little bit deeper into what that might look like. But this is just a drawing of what is the basics in here. So usually for a logo size, I would, and again, it depends on your logo, because you could do it, 100 pixels by 200 pixels, and that's just like height and width, or and length. And you can also do, 50 by 50 pixels if it's a square logo. So it's going to depend, right? The logo itself, if it's super detailed, then I would make it a little bit bigger. If it's a very simple logo, then you could keep it to, 100 pixels by 100 pixels and be okay with that. 50 might be, the bare minimum, depending on how the logo is designed. If it can be scaled down super small and still be recognizable. But that's one thing. The actual splash page, that one, you can actually go really big with that one. So 2,400 pixels wide by 1,600 pixels high. So that will give you, that really nice width, giving that we have, larger devices nowadays that can stretch to that far, but also gives you that height that you can really fill up the page. But that picture has to be, super high quality, but also, reduce the resolution, to it a little bit, right? But it's good to go a little bit larger than what is expected, right? So that when it does scale down, it still looks really crisp. Now, in terms of your button sizes, so for accessibility cases, usually the button height should be about, 50 pixels high to maybe 300 pixels wide. You want to make sure that on the phone, people can fit their finger on that button and be okay with, actually clicking it and not have to wait for loading times. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And your actual blog thumbnail sizes could go between 200 pixels by 200 pixels to 100 pixels by 100 pixels. So I like to do bigger photos because people like photos much more and would be more enticed to read it. So I like to really play with that, and that makes it a lot more inviting and easier to read too, depending on what the thumbnail is and how it wants to be formatted. Just with content beside them. So let's just make this a section so that you can see what we're talking about. So this, it could be portrait or landscape, it doesn't matter, but it should roughly be around, 1,500 pixels, in height or in width, so that we can see the picture and not have to like scroll down to see the rest of the picture. You actually see it within the actual frame, and that makes it easier for people to kind of read the image and then move on to the text. So 1,500 in width or height, it doesn't matter about the other size. It's just the max has to be at least 1,500 to make sure resolution is there and people can easily read the image. When it comes to icons, depending on how fun you want to get with them, if it's more of like an infographic, then I would go for 200 pixels by 200 pixels so that it's nice and big, people can see it and read it. But if it's not really that important, then it could be maybe 50 pixels by 50 pixels and still be easy to read. Now, gallery photos are interesting. Gallery photos have to have the same height. So at least, 1,500 pixels again, because when the people scroll through your slides, each photo should kind of seamlessly match each other so that it doesn't look like this, where you have a photo like this and then all of a sudden it's like this, and it doesn't really look good. So keep that in mind when it comes to doing galleries like this. It does, hurt the user experience if it's not as seamless. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the blog posts, because yes, as a, website user, building a website, you're going to have a blog. The blog helps to keep your website active and keeping your SEO up to, date and always growing. So usually with blogs, you want to put pictures in there to make it accommodating and easy to read, right? So with that, you're going to have a featured image, is what they call it. Usually it's this, but it depends on, the theme that you choose for your website. They could have banner images, like bigger banner images, to display, your newest blog post. Feature image should be at least 1,000 pixels in width so that it's very nice to read. It has good resolution and it looks nice when it's being displayed, on your blog post. So if I was to draw this again, and I can just say, this is the beginning of the blog post. And then you have your title and the content, and then maybe another picture inside, right? So this should be at least 1,000 pixels. Even this one as well, like the picture inside the content of the blog, could be 1,000 pixels as well. And that's just making sure that things are, accommodating and everything flows really easy down. You two tools that you can use, and they're super easy and super accessible. So if you have Chrome and you're using Chrome as your main browser, you can download the extensions. There's extensions that you can use. And if you're not sure, I'm going to share a little demo in a little bit about how you can download it and see how to use it on a website. So the two tools that I'm going to suggest that you look into is called Page Ruler, and the other one, Image Size Info. So both of them, they do the same thing, but it depends on basically what you're looking for. So the image info extension, basically you look at the website. So let's just say you got a website theme done already. So you have a website theme, the images you want to paste in. So usually the page templates, they just give you placeholder pictures. And what you can do is use the tool to click on it. So you right click on it and it will tell you, oh, get the information of the image size of this photo. And then you could take that size and then actually put it into a software, an image editing software, to size it appropriately. So I will show you how to do that in a demo. So don't worry about that. For now, I just wanted to share those two tools because I think they're very easy to use, especially for a beginner, such as yourself, that might not have the tech savvy, background in, preparing images. But I do have tools that you can use. So when it comes to actually getting your pictures prepared for the web, I would suggest that you use Photopea. That is a online photo editor, and it seems to me that it's very simple to use, but again, if it's too much for you to use, you can always use Canva. I think they have the ability to also size your images appropriately, but Photopea seems to be something that has a little bit more customizability to it if you want to make really fun graphics that, are very basic. I don't think you need to have, complete tech savvy background to use the software. So I'm going to suggest that to you And I'll leave it in the comments as well, especially the tools that I shared today, so that you can easily access them. And if you have any questions, you can always post them in the comments as well. So don't worry about that. Now, moving on to the actual SEO for images. So, like I mentioned before, when you really make the effort to save your images right appropriately for the web, so when you are, in Photopea or in Canva, what you want to really focus on is the file format that you save out the images as. So usually when it comes to website images, you either get a JPEG or you get a PNG file. There's also SVGs, but those are a little bit too advanced, I think, for you to understand that concept. So for now, we're just going to focus on JPEG and PNGs. So a JPEG usually holds, more abilities to hold, full color images, right? So this could be images that you've just taken with your camera, but a PNG would be for images that maybe you created yourself. So like graphics such as icons, maybe a logo, those such of things, because the PNG doesn't hold that many colors. So you want to make sure that you're saving, with the right formats. And I'll get into detail more in the demo when it comes to, doing all of the nitty gritty things with saving things out appropriately. But again, make sure you have the right size, right? So all the sizes that I shared with you today, those are official sizes that you can use for your website. So follow those steps. Make sure you save either as a JPEG or a PNG if your photo is super detailed or super simple, but keep in mind those two options for saving those out, because that will save you, a lot of loading time on your websites. And when you're loading your images on the website, you want to make sure you add a description about what the image is. So you can use special keywords, maybe about, let's just say you are posting a blog and the image goes into the blog, right? So maybe you want to write something a little bit of a detailed blurb, maybe about the image, and maybe it connects to the blog to some extent, because this helps with SEO and optimization with special keywords. So make sure, in your blog post that you are using, consistent words throughout that. And you can use the images as a tool as well to put those keywords in there to really amp up your SEO rankings. So that's just something I wanted to share very briefly. So what you can use to help you size your images properly for the websites that your art therapy website. And I have two different tools to share. So the first one here is the image size info tool. And this info tool is really cool because you can go to a website and you can right click and go view info. And it actually pops up with dimensions of the picture. So this is the actual dimensions, and this is from the original image, and this is what you want to go with, because this is the actual size and it's being displayed at 510 pixels by 629 pixels. So it's being scaled down because it's in a different screen size. So if this was at a bigger computer screen, it might stretch out a little bit, but not too much. And if it was on a phone version, then of course it's going to be a little bit smaller. So the dimensions are usually, the original image is 940 by 1160 pixels. So you want to focus on this, and it gives you the file size as well,
which is kind of neat because then you can kind of see where you need to ballpark your file size number so that your picture loads fairly quick on the website without any issues. So this is very clear to me, and you can actually take these, dimensions and write them down, copy and paste them into a photo editing software such as, Photopea, or you can use Canva. And the other tool is Page Ruler. This one gives you a little bit more control with how you want to size your images. So let's use this one, and with this one you actually have to set a shortcut to use the tool. So on mine I believe, where did I put it? It was under keyboard shortcuts. So I have it as Command 6 to activate this tool. So we're gonna go to the website again. So let's scroll down the page here. Maybe there's something that I want to change. So let's see. Okay, so how about this? So we have these like starter price tiers, and maybe I want to put a picture here. So what I'll do is I'll do the command of Control 6, which it should work. Ideally it should work. Okay, here we go. So Command 6. So now you see up in the left hand corner there is a ruler mode, and everything turns into a grid. So you can use this and map out where you want your icon to go and what size it needs to be. So I know there's a lot of numbers on the screen here, so you want to focus on the width and the height. So it is 152 pixels by 152 pixels. So that's all that we need to know here, and we can just leave it like that. So this is what we want to do. So I'm gonna take the specs from here. So maybe I roughly size it to 200 pixels by 200 pixels. That way that when it's reduced to a certain size, it still looks really crisp, and the max size that it can go is 200 pixels by 200 pixels. So this is a really neat tool to use to size things more accurately and accordingly. This is more customizable too, so if this isn't really what you want and you want just something much more easy, then you can use the other tool to help you get through just finding sizes and understanding the sizes. But we're going to refer back to the previous one so that we can save out an image and get it ready for displaying on the website. So we're going to go back and we're going to use image size info tool, Google Chrome extension tool. So let's just say I want to change this lady to a forest picture. So I'm going to review the info. And like I said, it's saying it's going to be about 1,600 pixels or 1,160 pixels high, and then the width is actually 940 pixels. So we're going to use this to our advantage, and that will make it a whole lot easier when saving pictures. So what I want to show you is this Photopea. This is online. Anyone can access this. It's a browser driven looks like photo editing software. So what you can do here is you can create a new document, and over here you see all these different size options, right? So what we can do is we can name the image. We're going to call it, portrait forest picture, or just say portrait forest. And for now we can copy and paste the pixels inside here. So the width of that photo was 940 pixels, right? So now we're going to do the height, which is 1160. So now it gives you an idea of what that picture is going to be sized at. Now the DPI, that means the resolution. Usually for the web, it has to stay at 72. It could go a little higher, but you gotta watch with loading times. So usually the default is 72. And then we just hit create. So now you have your canvas the same size as the picture that we have over here. See? So now we want to place our picture that we want to use inside of this frame, right? Remember how I was mentioning before about a picture frame? So we now have a size for that picture frame. So now we got to place our picture inside. So here's my picture. Great. So now we have our picture. See? So, and what we can do now is, stretch it out to what we need it to be. And our picture is still fairly crisp from what I see. I don't think there's any problems. Okay, now what we want to do here is, now that we have the picture set, so now we have it all matched out, we can then export the picture. Now, because this is a full color picture, it's not a logo, it's not an icon, we want to make sure we are using a JPEG for something this detailed and full colored. Okay, so now we are exporting for the web. You see down below here, there is a file size, right? So we want to make sure that we are keeping an eye on that. Now this photo right now is fairly good at the quality of 60%, right? But usually if we put it at 100%, you see that the size goes from 1.5 megabytes, and before it was roughly like 200 megabytes, or gigabytes. And what we need to do is we need to lower that quality down to 60%. So it's still going to look good, but it's going to compress it a little bit more down to 241.5 kilobytes. So kilobytes are smaller than megabytes, so we want to make sure that we are keeping an eye on that. So there you go, we have saved out for web, and now when you open your picture, you should have a photo ready for the web. Now see, when we zoom in, the pixels will be shown, but remember that your picture is going to be viewed at this size only. No one's going to zoom into your picture. So this is pretty good for a website, right? It's nice and clean, it's crisp, and the image file is much smaller. So that's really good, in my opinion, to keep things nice and clean, and load times will be much better. So I hope that you found this little demo helpful to you. And if you have any additional questions, you can always message me in the comments below, and I can certainly answer any questions that you might have.
Today, though, I want to thank you so much for tuning into today's video, all about, how to save images out for the web and how to display them on your website in a way that, helps with performance and really makes your website very appealing. So if you have any further questions, you can post them in the comments below. And without further ado, I wish you all the best with your websites, and hoping that, they look amazing and that people will be more enticed to try art therapy because you have amazing graphics and images that attract them and get them curious to know what art therapy is about, right? So I wish you all the best, and I hope to see you again for my future videos. So have a good one, friends, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!